Welcome to The Star, The Journey, and The Gift, a Christmas mini-series that will take you on the most extraordinary journey in biblical human history. My name is Christy, your host for this 5th episode called The Star's Promise, 3 Gifts for the Light of Nations. As this 5-episode mini-series unfolds, we will trace the steps of the Three Magi, men stirred by a heavenly sign. One night, they beheld a star unlike any other, bright, unwavering, declaring the birth of a king. With conviction, they prepared for a journey that would alter biblical history. Leaving behind their homes and comforts, the Three Magi gathered their treasures and set out across deserts and kingdoms. Pilgrims, missionaries, chosen by God. These 3 Magi followed the light with hearts fixed on the promise awaiting them in Bethlehem. Come back with me to where our journey with the 3 Magi brought us. Standing there in the cool Bethlehem night, your heart pounding alongside theirs, as Caspar's trembling hand reached toward that weathered wooden door. The star, that magnificent celestial beacon that had guided them across desert sands and mountain passes for nearly 2 years, hung directly overhead. Its light seeming to pool around this humble limestone house like liquid silver. But dear listener, let me paint the fuller picture of this sacred timeline. It has been nearly 2 years since that holy night when Jesus was born in the cave stable with a manger. Mary has long since completed her 40 days of purification, that of which was required by the law of Moses. The Christ child has grown from infant to toddler. He's now between 18 months and 2 years old, walking with steady steps, speaking his first words in Aramaic, his dark eyes bright with the curiosity of childhood, yet holding depths that sometimes make Mary catch her breath in wonder. Caspar's knuckles meet the door. 3 soft, respectful taps that seem to echo through eternity itself. From within, you hear the shuffle of sandaled feet across packed earth floors, hushed voices, and then the gentle creak of wooden hinges. The door opens, and there stands Joseph, his weathered face, illuminated by the clay oil lamp he carries, shows surprise at the sight of these richly dressed foreigners. The lamp's flame dances in the evening breeze, casting shifting shadows across his features. His carpenter hands, still bearing the calluses of his trade despite months away from his workshop, grip the doorframe as he takes in their travel-stained but obviously noble robes. Peace be upon this house. Melchior speaks first, his voice carrying the authority of courts and kingdoms, yet trembling with reverence. We have traveled far, following the star of the one who has been born King of the Jews. Joseph's eyes widen, the lamplight reflecting in them like tiny stars. Behind him, you hear the soft patter of small feet and Mary's gentle voice. Joseph, who comes to us at this hour? Strangers, Mary, Joseph calls softly over his shoulder, never taking his eyes from the 3 Magi. But he pauses, studying their faces in the flickering lamplight, noting the reverence in their expressions, the way they seem to tremble with anticipation. Perhaps not strangers to the Most High. Caspar steps forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Good sir, we seek the child who was born to be king. We have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. From within the house, you hear the soft sound of Mary rising from her evening task, the gentle rustle of her woolen robe, and then she appears beside Joseph. Even in the dim light, there is something luminous about her. That same radiance that has marked her since the angel's visit, now deepened by nearly 2 years of pondering the mysteries of God in her heart. And there, clinging to the folds of Mary's robe with chubby fingers, peering around her legs with wide, curious eyes, is Jesus. He is no longer the helpless infant in Bethlehem's cave stable, but a sturdy toddler with dark curls that catch the lamplight like a halo. His little tunic, woven by Mary's own hands, is simple but clean, and his bare feet are dusty from playing in the courtyard earlier that day. The child looks at the strangers with fearless curiosity, those deep, knowing eyes that sometimes make Mary wonder if he remembers heaven. At nearly 2 years old, he's beginning to form words, to explore his world with boundless energy of childhood. Yet there are moments when he will stop his play and look at her with such profound understanding that she feels he sees straight into her soul. "This is he," Mary says simply, her voice filled with that quiet certainty that has carried her through impossible things. She places a protective hand on Jesus' shoulder as he continues to stare at these foreign visitors with unblinking fascination. "This is my son." Watch now, as understanding floods the faces of these learned men. Melchior, who has counseled kings in distant lands, begins to tremble. His hands, adorned with the rings of office, shake as he takes in the sight of this ordinary-looking toddler. Caspar, who has studied the stars for decades, feels his knees weaken as he realizes the star of stars stands before him in human flesh. Balthazar, who has interpreted dreams for emperors, can barely speak as he recognizes the fulfillment of every prophecy he has ever studied. May we enter?" Balthazar asked, his voice thick with emotion, his eyes never leaving the child who has begun to smile at them with the innocent joy of a 2-year-old meeting new friends. "We have brought gifts." Joseph looks to Mary, and in that glance, you see the silent communication of a couple who has walked through miracle after miracle together. Mary's slight nod speaks of trust, built through divine encounters, of a woman who has learned to recognize the hand of God in unexpected visitors. "Come," Joseph says, opening the door wider, the warm light from within spilling out into the cool night. "Come and see the salvation of the Lord." Step inside with them, dear listener. Feel the change in atmosphere as you cross the threshold from the cool night air into the warm, intimate space of this humble home. The house is a single room, perhaps 12 feet by 15 feet, with limestone walls that have been carefully whitewashed to reflect the precious light of their oil lamps. The ceiling is low, supported by rough-hewn wooden beams that Joseph himself may have shaped, and the floor is hard-packed earth, covered in places by woven reed mats that Mary has made during the long evenings. The air is thick with the mingled sense of daily life. The earthy smell of the clay oil lamps burning with their olive oil fuel, the lingering aroma of evening bread, still warm from the small clay oven built into one corner, the sweet scent of dried herbs, mint, cumin, coriander, hanging in small bundles from the ceiling beams. There is also the clean smell of wool and linen from the family's simple clothing, and underlying it all, the faint fragrance of the olive wood that Joseph uses for his carpentry work. Look around you, dear listener. Against the far wall, sleeping areas are separated by hanging curtains of undyed wool, one for Mary and Joseph, a smaller space where Jesus' little sleeping mat lies beside a few simple wooden toys that Joseph has carved for him. Near the entrance, cooking vessels are arranged neatly on low stone shelves. Clay pots of various sizes, wooden bowls, a grinding stone for grain, and several oil lamps ready to be lit when darkness falls. In one corner, you notice Joseph's carpenter tools: a saw, chisels, a measuring rod, carefully maintained and waiting for the day when they might return to Nazareth in normal life. Nearby, Mary's weaving supplies rest in a woven basket. Spindles, wool in natural colors, and the beginnings of a small blanket she has been working on during quiet moments. The walls are bare, except for a small niche where a clay lamp burns continuously, what the Jews call the Ner Tamid, the eternal light that burns as a reminder of God's constant presence in their home. Above it, Joseph has carved a simple mezuzah into the doorframe, marking this as a house where the God of Israel is honored. But as the three Magi cross the threshold, something extraordinary happens. The very air seems to shimmer with holiness. Without word, without hesitation, these three powerful men, advisors to kings, masters of astronomy and ancient wisdom, fall to their knees on the hard-packed floor, their expensive robes pooling around them like royal proclamations of surrender. The sound of their knees hitting the floor echoes in the small space, and little Jesus, startled by the sudden movement, takes a step closer to Mary, his small hand gripping her robe tighter. But instead of fear, his face shows wonder as he watches these grown men bow before him. "My Lord," Melchior whispers, his voice breaking as tears begin to stream down his weathered cheeks. "My King." Mary gasps softly, instinctively lifting Jesus into her arms, holding him close against her heart. But the child, oh, the child, instead of hiding his face as most toddlers would, reaches his small hands toward these kneeling strangers. His chubby fingers open and close in that universal gesture of a child wanting to touch, to explore, to connect. "Mama," Jesus says in his sweet, high voice, one of his first clear words, and points at the kneeling men. Even at not quite 2 years old, there's something in his tone that suggests he understands this moment is different, special, sacred. Joseph moves closer to Mary, his own eyes filling with tears as he watches these foreign dignitaries worship his son, the son he has raised, the child he has protected, the boy whose true identity sometimes overwhelms him in moments like this. The lamplight flickers across his face, showing the wonder and fear of a man who knows he is witnessing something beyond human understanding. "We have traveled so far," Caspar says, his voice thick with emotion, tears streaming down his sun-weathered cheeks. "Through desert storms and mountain passes, through doubt and wonder, through nights when we questioned if we had truly seen his star. But now we know. The star has led us to you, little King." Jesus, fascinated by the sound of this foreign accent, claps his hands together and laughs. that pure, joyful sound that only children can make. The contrast is breathtaking. The solemnness of the Three Magi's worship and the innocent delight of a toddler discovering new friends. "Tell us," Mary says gently, settling onto one of the woven mats with Jesus in her lap, her voice filled with that same wonder she has carried since Angel Gabriel's visit. "Tell us your journey. How did you know to come?" The oil lamps flicker as a gentle breeze stirs through the small window opening, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, you can hear the soft sounds of Bethlehem settling into night. The distant lowing of cattle, the whisper of wind through olive trees, the far-off call of a night watchman. Balthazar, still kneeling, but now looking up at the Holy Family, begins. "We are from the east, my lady, from the land of Babylon, where your people once lived in exile. We study the stars, the movements of heaven, the ancient prophecies left by your prophet Daniel during our people's time together in captivity." As he speaks, Jesus slides down from Mary's lap and takes tentative steps toward the kneeling men, his little legs still uncertain but determined. Mary reaches out instinctively, but Joseph gently touches her arm, and together they watch as their toddler approaches these powerful strangers with the fearless trust of childhood. "Nearly 2 years ago," Melchior continues, his eyes following Jesus' every movement, "we saw his star, a light unlike any we had ever witnessed. It appeared in the constellation of the Lion, in the house of Judah, exactly as the ancient writings foretold. It spoke to our hearts of a king born in Israel, the fulfillment of prophecies we had studied for decades." Jesus reaches Melchior and, with the boldness that only a 2-year-old possesses, reaches out to touch the golden threads embroidered on the Magi's robe. His small fingers trace the intricate patterns while he babbles softly in the mixture of Aramaic and baby talk that Mary treasures in her heart. "We knew," Caspar continues, his voice filled with awe as he watches the Christ child explore his clothing with innocent curiosity. "We knew that the King of Jews had been born. The star compelled us. We could not rest, could not continue our lives as before. We liquidated treasures, gathered provisions, and set out on a journey we knew might cost us everything." Mary's eyes fill with tears as she remembers Simeon's words in the temple, "A light to lighten the Gentiles." Here, kneeling in her humble home, are the first fruits of that prophecy. Gentiles drawn by divine light to worship the Jewish Messiah. "The journey was treacherous," Balthazar adds, his voice growing stronger as Jesus moves to examine his robes as well. "Sandstorms that lasted for days, bandits who stalked us across the desert, nights when we wondered if we would see another dawn. But always, always the star went before us. When we camped, it waited. When we traveled, it led. When we doubted, it shone brighter." Joseph, overwhelmed by the magnitude of their sacrifice, finds his voice. "You left everything? For him?" "How could we not?" Melchior replies, his hand hovering near Jesus but not quite touching, as if afraid to disturb something too holy. "We had spent our lives studying the heavens, interpreting signs and wonders for earthly kings. But this was different. This star sang to our souls. It called us not to interpret, but to worship." Jesus, having completed his examination of the stranger's clothing, looks up at Melchior with those deep, knowing eyes and speaks one of his few clear words, Abba? It's the Aramaic word for father, and he's looking questioningly at this foreign man as if trying to understand his place in the world. Melchior's composure breaks completely. No, little Lord, he whispers through his tears. I am not your father. I am your servant, your subject, your worshiper. But Jesus, with the simple logic of childhood, reaches up his arms in the universal gesture of a toddler wanting to be held. Melchior looks to Mary and Joseph with desperate hope, and Mary nods, tears streaming down her own cheeks. With trembling hands, this king's advisor, this master of wisdom, lifts the Christ child into his arms. Jesus settles against his chest as naturally as if he has known this stranger all his life. His small hand patting Melchior's bearded cheek with gentle affection. He's so ordinary, Caspar whispers in wonder, watching the interaction. And yet, he's everything, Balthazar finishes. Look at him. Really look. Those eyes hold eternity. That smile carries the promise of redemption. Those tiny hands will one day bear nails for our salvation. The room falls silent, except for the soft crackling of the oil lamp and Jesus' contented babbling as he plays with Melchior's beard. The atmosphere is thick with holiness, as if heaven itself has descended into this humble limestone room. We have brought gifts, Caspar finally says, his voice reverent as he watches Jesus reach for the golden amulet hanging from Melchior's neck. Gifts worthy of a king, though nothing could truly be worthy of him. Joseph helps them retrieve their treasures from outside, where their servants wait with the ornate chests. As each chest is brought into the lamplight, the small room seems to grow even more sacred, as if the very gifts recognize the presence of the one for whom they were intended. Melchior, still holding Jesus, speaks to the child as if he can understand every word. Little king, I bring you gold. He opens the first chest with one hand, and the room fills with warm, golden light as the lamp flames reflect off carefully crafted pieces. Not mere coins, but royal treasures that speak of sovereignty and majesty. Crowns fit for a child, golden cups, ornate jewelry that will one day fund a family's flight to safety. Jesus reaches toward the gleaming metal with the fascination of any toddler, his fingers grasping at the light itself. But as his tiny hand closes around a small golden crown, something remarkable happens. For just a moment, the child's expression grows solemn, ancient, as if he glimpses his future reign. And I, Caspar says, opening his vessel, bring frankincense for our great high priest. Immediately, the sweet, sacred aroma fills the humble room, transforming it into something resembling the temple itself. The resin glows like amber in the lamplight, and Mary remembers the incense that burned when they presented Jesus in Jerusalem. Jesus wrinkles his little nose at the strong scent, then laughs and claps his hands as if delighted by this new sensory experience. You know, Mary whispers, wondering in her voice as she watches her son's reaction. You know who he is. We know he is more than a king, Balthazar replies, his voice growing heavy with prophetic weight as he opens his final gift. We know he is more than a priest. He pauses, looking directly at Jesus, who has grown quiet in Melchior's arms, as if sensing the gravity of this moment. Myrrh, Balthazar says solemnly, and the bitter, medicinal fragrance mingles with the frankincense, creating an atmosphere both beautiful and haunting for the one who will taste death for his people. The room grows quiet, except for the soft flickering of the oil lamps. Jesus, still nestled in Melchior's arms, reaches toward this final gift with the same innocent curiosity. But as the scent reaches him, his little face grows thoughtful, almost sorrowful, in a way that makes Mary's heart skip a beat. Mary's hand instinctively moves to her heart, remembering Simeon's prophecy about the sword that would pierce her soul. She looks at this bitter resin that speaks of burial and death, then at her precious son, so alive and warm and perfect in the stranger's arms. He will suffer, she whispers, not as a question, but as a statement of terrible understanding. The myrrh, it speaks of suffering. Balthazar nods gravely. The ancient writings speak of a Messiah who will be wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The myrrh honors his sacrifice before it is made. Jesus, as if sensing the weight of the conversation, reaches up and touches Melchior's face with his tiny palm, then turns to look at his mother with those deep, knowing eyes. In that moment, Mary sees something that takes her breath away. Acceptance. Even at not quite 2 years old, there is something in her son's expression that suggests he understands his destiny. But the myrrh speaks of more than death, Joseph says quietly. His carpenter's hands clasped tightly together. It speaks of preservation. We use it to preserve what is precious, to keep it from corruption. Yes, Caspar says, his voice filled with wonder. Death will not hold him. The myrrh that prepares him for burial will be overwhelmed by resurrection power. Jesus claps his hands suddenly, breaking the solemn moment with childish delight, and everyone laughs through their tears. The sound echoes off the limestone walls, filling the small space with joy that somehow encompasses both the sorrow of sacrifice and the triumph of victory. Tell us more of your journey, Mary says, settling back onto her mat as Melchior carefully places Jesus on the floor. The toddler immediately begins exploring the gift chest, his small hands patting the ornate wood and metal with fascination. We stopped in Jerusalem first, Melchior explains, watching Jesus with tender eyes. We thought surely the birth of Israel's king would be celebrated there, announced from the temple courts, proclaimed by the priests. But no one knew, Caspar continues, shaking his head in amazement. The chief priests searched the scriptures when Herod demanded answers, and they found the prophecy. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Yet they did not come, Balthazar adds sadly. They knew the prophecy, they knew the place, but they did not seek him. Joseph's jaw tightens at the mention of Herod. The king. What did he say when you told him of the star? The three magi exchange glances, and Melchior speaks carefully. He was troubled. All Jerusalem was troubled with him. He asked us to search carefully for the young child, and when we found him, to bring him word that he might come and worship also. The way he says it makes Mary's blood run cold. She pulls Jesus closer as he toddles back to her, his arms full of golden treasures that he's collected from the open chest. "Something about King Herod troubles you," Mary observes quietly, her maternal instincts sharp as she studies their faces. "I can see it in your eyes." The three Magi exchange glances, and Melchior nods slowly. "We have served in royal courts long enough to recognize when a king's words may not match his heart's intentions," he admits. His eagerness to find the child seemed intense, almost desperate. "We will seek the Lord's wisdom about our path," Caspar adds softly, his voice carrying the weight of men who sense they stand at a crossroads of divine purpose. The room falls silent as the implications sink in. Outside, the night sounds of Bethlehem continue. The distant bleating of sheep, the whisper of wind through narrow streets, the soft murmur of other families settling into sleep. But inside this small limestone house, the weight of divine protection and coming danger hangs in the air. Jesus, oblivious to the adult concerns, has discovered that the golden pieces make interesting sounds when he banks them together. The metallic chiming fills the room like tiny bells, and he laughs with pure delight at his discovery. "How long will you stay?" Joseph asks, though his tone suggests he already knows the answer. "We must leave before dawn," Melchior replies. "We cannot stay long, good Joseph. We must find lodging in Bethlehem tonight and prepare for our journey home." Mary looks down at Jesus, who has abandoned the gold in favor of trying to open the frankincense vessel. His little fingers work at the carved lid with determined concentration, his tongue poking out slightly in the way of children deeply focused on a task. "Will we see you again?" she asks softly. The three Magi look at each other, then at the Holy Family, and finally at Jesus, who has successfully opened the frankincense and is now waving his hands through the aromatic smoke with wonder. "Perhaps not in this life," Caspar says gently, "but we will carry this moment in our hearts forever. We will tell our children and our children's children about the night we knelt before the King of Kings in a humble house in Bethlehem. And when our time comes to leave this world," Balthasar adds, "we will remember that we have already met our judge, and he smiled at us with the innocent joy of childhood." As the night deepens, the conversation continues in hushed, reverent tones. The three Magi share stories of their journey, the nights when the stars seemed to dance with joy, leading them onward, the moments of doubt when clouds obscured their guide, the growing certainty that they were part of something far greater than themselves. Mary tells them about the angel's visit, about the impossible pregnancy, about the journey to Bethlehem and the birth in the cave stable, one of those limestone caves carved into the hillside where animals sheltered, with a stone feeding trough carved right into the rock wall and lined with soft straw where she first laid her newborn son. Joseph speaks of his dreams, of the angel's reassurances, of the growing understanding that he has been chosen to protect and raise the Son of the Most High, the child who entered the world not in a palace, but cradled in a humble stone manger cushioned with hay, in a cave where shepherds kept their flocks. And through it all, Jesus plays contently among the treasures, sometimes climbing into one lap or another, sometimes standing at the small window opening to point at the star that still shines directly overhead, babbling in his mixture of Aramaic and baby talk, as if he's trying to tell them something important. Finally, as the night reaches its deepest hour, the three Magi prepare to leave. Each one approaches Jesus for a final blessing. Melchior kneels and kisses the child's forehead, whispering, "Reign forever, my king." Caspar touches his tiny hands, saying, "Intercede for us, my priest." Balthazar lifts him one last time, declaring, "Save us, my Lord." And Jesus, this nearly 2-year-old child who holds the universe in his hands, seems to bless each of them in return, touching their faces with his small palms, looking into their eyes with that deep eternal gaze, smiling with a love that encompasses all of creation. As the door closes behind them and the sound of camel bells fades into the distance, Mary and Joseph stand in their transformed home. The gifts remain. Gold that speaks of divine provision for whatever lies ahead. Frankincense that carries prayers ascending to heaven. Myrrh that whispers of both sacrifice and victory. But more than the gifts, the presence lingers. The atmosphere of worship, the echo of prophecy fulfilled, the certainty that they have witnessed the moment when the promise to Abraham that in his seed all nations would be blessed began its ultimate fulfillment. Jesus, tired from the excitement, curls up on his sleeping mat surrounded by golden treasures, his small fist clutching a piece of frankincense as he drifts off to sleep. And Mary, pondering all these things in her heart, watches over the child who is the light of the world, the hope of nations, the King of Kings. Dear listener, you have witnessed the moment when East met West, when Gentile wisdom bowed before Jewish promise, when the light of the world received the worship of the nations. The same child who was presented in the temple as a light to lighten the Gentiles has now received the homage of Gentile kings. This is where our journey continues today, in that sacred space where heaven touches earth, where prophecy becomes reality, and where three gifts tell the eternal story of the one who is prophet, priest, and king. Dear listener, step quietly into this sacred space. The oil lamps burn low in the humble limestone house, casting dancing shadows on the whitewashed walls that seem to pulse with the rhythm of the flickering flames. The treasures from the three Magi, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, rest in their ornate chests near the wall, gleaming softly in the amber light like earthly echoes of heavenly glory. The air still carries the lingering fragrance of frankincense, mingling with the familiar sense of home, olive oil, fresh baked bread, and the clean smell of wool and linen. Jesus sleeps peacefully on his small mat, his dark curls spread across the woven pillow, the one that Mary made for him during those long evenings when her hands needed something to do, while her heart pondered the mysteries of God. His little chest rises and falls with the gentle rhythm of childhood slumber. One tiny fist curled near his cheek, the same cheek that will one day bear the marks of cruel hands. The other clutching a small wooden lamb that Joseph carved for him months ago. Each detail lovingly shaped by hands that know they are crafting toys for the Lamb of God. Mary sits cross-legged on a woven mat beside Joseph. Her simple woolen robe, dyed the deep blue of Galilean tradition, arranged modestly around her. Still so young, yet she carries herself with the quiet dignity of a woman who has walked through impossible things and found God faithful at every step. Her dark hair, partially covered by a linen veil that catches and releases the lamplight like captured starshine, frames a face that has aged not with years, but with wisdom. Joseph, his carpenter hands, scarred from years of working with wood and stone, calloused from providing for his family, clasped loosely in his lap, watches Jesus with the tender expression of a man who has learned to see the eternal in the everyday. "Joseph," Mary whispers, her voice barely audible in the quiet room. "Can you believe what happened tonight? Those men, they traveled so far. They knew. Somehow, they knew exactly who he is." Joseph shifts slightly, his eyes never leaving Jesus' sleeping form. When Caspar knelt before him, he murmurs, his voice thick with emotion. When he called him my king, Mary, I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't just being respectful to a child. He was worshiping, truly worshiping. Mary nods, tears glistening in her eyes. And the way Jesus looked at him, did you see? Even at not quite 2 years old, there was something in his expression, as if he understood, as if he accepted their worship as his due. She reaches out to adjust the small blanket covering Jesus, her touch feather light, so she does not wake him. Sometimes I watch him sleep like this, and I almost forget. He looks so ordinary, so perfectly human. Just my little boy who gets dirt on his tunic and laughs when you tickle his feet. But then those moments like tonight happen, Joseph adds softly. And I remember what the angel told me in that first dream. Do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is the Holy Spirit, and she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. Mary's hand moves to her heart, a gesture that has become natural to her over the past 2 years. Do you remember that night, Joseph? The night he was born? Joseph's eyes grow distant with memory. How could I forget? We had searched everywhere for a room, every inn, every guest house, every relative's home, all full because of Caesar's census. I felt like such a failure as a husband, unable to provide proper shelter for you when your time came. But you did provide, Mary says gently, reaching over to touch his weathered hand. You found that cave stable, one of those limestone caves carved into the hillside where animals shelter, with a stone manger carved right into the rock, and lined with soft straw where I first laid our newborn son. You were there when I needed you most. Tell me again what it looked like, Joseph says quietly. I was so focused on helping you, on making sure you were safe. Sometimes I feel like I missed the wonder of it all. Mary's eyes grow soft with remembrance. The cave was larger than I expected, perhaps 15 feet deep, carved right into the limestone hillside by generations of shepherds. The walls were rough but dry, worn smooth in places by countless animals seeking refuge. There were several stone mangers carved into the rock where the animals fed, simple troughs. but carved with care, lined with fresh straw that you had arranged so carefully. She pauses, her voice growing tender. There was one oil lamp. Do you remember? The innkeeper's wife had given it to us out of pity. It cast such gentle light on the stone walls, making everything seem almost holy. Even before Jesus was born, that cave felt different, set apart. And then the pains began in earnest, Mary continues, her voice barely a whisper. I was frightened, Joseph, not of the birth itself. Women have been giving birth since Eve. But I knew this child was different. I kept thinking of Hannah's song, my heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. Joseph's grip tightens on her hand. You were so brave, Mary, so strong. When the moment came, when Jesus took his first breath, the light in that cave changed. I can't explain it. It was still just one small oil lamp, but suddenly everything seemed brighter, clearer. I felt it too, Mary whispers, glancing at their sleeping son. The moment I held him, the moment I looked into his eyes for the first time, Joseph, I saw eternity. In the face of a newborn baby, I saw the Ancient of Days. It should have been terrifying, but instead, I felt such peace, such perfect love. And then you laid him in the manger, Joseph continues, his voice filled with wonder. That stone feeding trough, lined with the softest straw we could find. The creator of the universe cradled in a place where animals ate their daily bread. The Word made flesh, lying where the beasts of the field found their sustenance. Mary nods, tears flowing freely. Isaiah's words kept echoing in my mind. The ox knows its owner and the donkey its master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people do not consider. But there he was. The master himself, lying in the crib, and somehow it felt so right, so perfectly planned by the Father. Do you remember those first days after his birth? Mary asked, softly, her voice growing distant with memory. How we had to leave the cave stable once I was strong enough to travel. I was so worried, Joseph. Where would we go? How would we provide proper shelter for the newborn king? Joseph's eyes grow tender with remembrance. But God provided, didn't he? Just as he always does. That kind family, distant relatives of mine from David's line. They heard about the birth and made room for us in their country yard house. It wasn't much, but it had proper walls, a roof that didn't leak, and space for you to recover properly. And then, when they had to return to their own lands after the census, Mary continues, the Lord opened the way for us to find this little house. Nothing grand, nothing that would draw attention, but perfect for our needs. A place where the Christ child could grow and play safely, where we could establish our home. From a cave stable to this humble house, Joseph muses, glancing around their simple but comfortable dwelling. God's provision every step of the way. He gave Jesus the humblest beginning, born among the animals, cradled in a feeding trough, but then he provided exactly what we needed for each season. A place for him to take his first steps, to speak his first words, to grow in wisdom and stature. Mary nods, her hand moving to touch the limestone wall. Sometimes I think about that progression. From the cave where he was born to this house where he's learning to walk and talk, and someday to the whole world that he will transform. Each dwelling place prepares him for the next stage of his calling. And then came the 8th day, Joseph says, his voice growing reverent. Do you remember his circumcision, Mary? When Jesus was 8 days old? Still so tiny, so new to this world. Mary's expression grows tender with the memory. How could I forget? According to the law of Moses, every male child had to be circumcised on the 8th day. We arranged for the ceremony here in Bethlehem with the local mohel. We wrapped him so carefully in his swaddling clothes, and you held him so gently during the ritual. I was so nervous, Joseph admits, his voice soft with remembrance. Holding the Son of God during his circumcision, my hands were trembling as the mohel prepared for the ceremony. But Jesus, he was so peaceful, so trusting. Even during the ritual itself, he barely cried. And that's when we officially named him, Mary adds, her voice filled with wonder. Jesus, Yeshua, the Lord saves. The name the angel had given to both of us in our dreams. When the mohel spoke his name aloud for the first time before the witnesses, it felt like heaven itself was listening. But then we had to wait, Joseph continues, his voice carrying a note of longing. Because of the law, because you were still in your days of purification and couldn't enter the temple courts. Mary nods, her hand moving to her heart. Those were the hardest days, Joseph. I longed to take him to his father's house, but according to the law of Moses, I was ceremonially unclean for 40 days after giving birth to a son. I couldn't touch anything holy, couldn't enter the temple courts, couldn't participate in worship. We had to wait 32 more days before we could finally make that sacred journey to Jerusalem together. It felt so strange, she continues, her voice growing thoughtful. Here I was, having given birth to the Holy One of Israel, and yet the law said I was unclean. Not sinfully unclean, but ritually unclean. I remember walking away from the temple that day, looking back over my shoulder, knowing I couldn't return for more than a month. But those 32 days between his circumcision and your purification, Joseph says gently, tell me about that time. What was it like? Just the three of us, waiting for the law to be fulfilled? Mary's expression softens with memory. Those were precious days, Joseph. Sacred days in their own way. I couldn't enter the temple or touch anything ceremonially holy, but somehow, holding Jesus, nursing him, watching him grow stronger each day, it felt like the most holy thing I had ever done. More holy than any temple sacrifice, more sacred than any ritual purification. I was holding holiness itself in my arms. She pauses, her voice growing dreamy with remembrance. I spent so much time just looking at him, trying to memorize every detail. His tiny fingernails, perfect and translucent, the way his hair curled at the nape of his neck, the sound of his breathing when he slept, so soft, so peaceful. the way he would grip my finger with his whole hand when I offered it to him. I kept thinking of David's psalm. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. And you were so patient during those days, Mary continues, looking at Joseph with deep gratitude, bringing me everything I needed, taking care of the household, protecting us both. You could have been resentful. After all, this wasn't your child by blood, but you loved him from the very beginning. Joseph's eyes filled with tears. How could I not love him? From that first night when the angel appeared to me in the dream, when I understood that this was God's plan. Mary, I may not be his father by blood, but I am his father by choice, by calling, by divine appointment. And when the 40 days were complete, Mary continues, her voice growing reverent, when we could finally make our first journey to the temple together, for my purification and his presentation. Do you remember that sacred day, Joseph? How long we had waited for that moment when we could finally enter his father's house as a family? Joseph nods, his face lighting up with the memory. How could I forget? We rose early that morning when Jesus was exactly 40 days old. You had prepared everything the night before. Our simple offering of 2 turtle doves, as prescribed for those who couldn't afford a lamb. We wrapped Jesus in his best swaddling clothes, the ones you had woven with such care. The walk to Jerusalem, Mary adds, her eyes distant with remembrance. Just 5 miles, but it felt like we were carrying the most precious cargo in the world. And this time, I could enter the temple courts. I could participate in worship again. I could present my son to the Lord according to the law. And when we reached the temple courts, Joseph continues, his voice filled with awe, Jesus was so peaceful. Most babies cry when they are in unfamiliar places, surrounded by crowds and noise. But Jesus, it was as if he knew exactly where he was. He was coming home, Mary whispers, to his father's house. Even at 40 days old, I think he recognized it. His eyes were so alert, so focused. He kept looking up at the massive stones, the soaring columns, as if he was taking it all in, memorizing it. And then we met Simeon, Joseph says, his voice growing tender. That old man, waiting in the temple courts as if he knew we were coming. The moment he saw us, his whole face changed. It was as if he had been holding his breath his entire life, and suddenly he could exhale. Mary's voice becomes soft with wonder. He asked if he could hold Jesus, and something in his eyes. I knew this was ordained by God. When I placed Jesus in his arms, Simeon began to weep. This old man, who had been waiting his entire life for that moment, suddenly looked young again. And then he spoke, Joseph adds, his voice filled with the memory of that prophetic moment. Lord, now you are letting your servant depart in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared before the face of all peoples, a light to lighten the Gentiles and the glory of your people Israel. A light to lighten the Gentiles, Mary repeats softly, glancing toward the three Magi's treasures. And tonight, Joseph, we saw it begin those men, Gentiles from distant lands. They came to worship him. They called him the light of the nations. Simeon's prophecy is already starting to unfold. But then Simeon said something else, Joseph continues, his voice growing heavy with concern. Something that still makes my heart ache. He looks at Mary with deep compassion. He said a sword would pierce your soul. Mary, when I think about what that might mean. Mary's breath catches slightly, and she glances at the chest containing the myrrh. I try not to think that far ahead, Joseph. I try to follow Elizabeth's example. She said, I was blessed because I believed that there would be a fulfillment of those things which we were told to me from the Lord. And Anna, Mary adds, her voice brightening slightly. Do you remember Anna, the prophetess? She was 84 years old, and she had been serving in the temple, fasting and praying night and day since she was widowed as a young woman. Joseph nods, smiling at the memory. She came up to us just as Simeon was speaking. Her face was radiant with joy, and she began giving thanks to God and speaking about Jesus to all who were looking for redemption in Jerusalem. 2 witnesses, Mary, Simeon, and Anna, both confirming that our son is the promised Messiah. The presentation itself, Mary continues, her voice growing reverent. When we officially presented Jesus to the Lord according to the law, Joseph, I felt the weight of what we were doing. Every firstborn son belongs to the Lord, according to as Moses commanded. But this wasn't just any firstborn son. This was the Son of God, being presented to his own Father. And our offering, Joseph adds, his voice carrying a note of humility. 2 turtle doves instead of a lamb. The offering of the poor. Here we were, presenting the Lamb of God to his Father, and we could only afford the sacrifice of the humble. Mary reaches over to touch his hand. But it was perfect, Joseph. Don't you see? The humility, the simplicity, it was all part of God's plan. The King of Kings presented with the offering of the poor, the Word made flesh, honored with the sacrifice of the humble. Do you think he remembers? Joseph asked suddenly, his eyes fixed on Jesus' peaceful face. Being in the temple that day, when we presented him to the Lord and met Simeon and Anna, being held by that holy man, hearing Anna's prophecy, do you think he carries memories of those sacred moments when he was just 40 days old? Mary considers this, studying their son with the intensity of a mother who has memorized every expression. Sometimes I wonder, there are moments when he looks at me with such knowing in his eyes. Not the simple understanding of a toddler, but something deeper. Sometimes when we pass by the temple during our visits to Jerusalem, he grows very quiet, very thoughtful, as if he's remembering something important. Like tonight, Joseph adds, when the 3 Magi presented their gifts, did you see how he reacted to each one? The gold made him smile, as if he understood its significance. The frankincense made him grow thoughtful, almost solemn. The same expression he had when Simeon held him in the temple. And the myrrh. Joseph shakes his head. Mary, when Balthazar opened that myrrh, Jesus looked almost sad, as if he knew what it meant. The gifts, Mary said suddenly, glancing at the ornate chest. Joseph, that gold, it's more wealth than we have ever seen. Why do you think God provided it now? Joseph considers this, his practical mind working. I've been wondering the same thing. It's enough to travel far if we needed to start over somewhere else if necessary, to provide for Jesus' future in ways we never could on a carpenter's wages. Mary shivers slightly. Do you think we might need to travel? To leave Bethlehem? I don't know, Joseph admits, but I've learned to pay attention to dreams, to signs, to the Spirit's leading. If the Lord wants us to move, He will make it clear, just like He did when He told me to take you as my wife, when He guided us here for the census. They sit in comfortable silence for a few moments, both watching Jesus sleep. The oil lamps flicker slightly in a gentle breeze from the window, and somewhere in the distance, they can hear the soft lowing of cattle and the whisper of wind through olive trees. Mary, Joseph says finally, his voice filled with wonder. Look at him. Really look at him. Mary follows his gaze, and together they study their sleeping son with new eyes. Eyes that have just witnessed foreign kings bow before him. Eyes that have seen prophecy fulfilled in their humble home. He looks so small, Mary whispers. So vulnerable. His hands are so tiny. His breathing so soft. But those hands... Joseph, those hands will heal the sick, raise the dead, break bread for multitudes. And those feet, Joseph adds, his voice thick with emotion. Those little feet that are just learning to run and play. They will walk on water, climb the hill to Calvary, and one day, every knee will bow before them. Mary reaches out gently to touch Jesus' forehead, her finger tracing the soft skin with infinite tenderness. That mind, still learning words and songs and stories, it holds all the wisdom of the ages. Those lips that babble and laugh and call me Mama. They will speak words that will transform the world. And those eyes, Joseph whispers. Those beautiful, knowing eyes. They have seen the Father's glory. They look at us with such love, such understanding. Sometimes I feel like He's the parent and we're the children, learning from Him what it means to trust completely. Jesus stirs slightly in his sleep, making a soft sound and turning his head toward his parents' voices. For a moment, his eyes flutter open, those deep, eternal eyes that seem to hold starlight, and he looks directly at Mary and Joseph with a sleepy smile. Mama, he whispers in his sweet high voice. Abba. Both parents' hearts melt at the sound. Mary leans down to gently stroke his hair. Sleep, my precious one, she murmurs. Mama and Abba are here. You're safe. Jesus' eyes drift closed again, but his smile remains as he settles back into peaceful slumber. He knows, Joseph says softly, his voice filled with awe. Even in his sleep, he knows we are here. He trusts us completely. The way we need to trust his heavenly Father, Mary adds, her voice carrying new resolve. Whatever comes next, Joseph, whether we stay in Bethlehem or travel to distant lands, whether we face joy or sorrow, triumph or trial, we need to trust like Jesus trusts, completely, without reservation. Joseph nods, reaching over to take Mary's hand again. Then that's what we'll do. We'll trust. We'll follow. We'll protect him as long as we're able. And when we can't, we'll trust that his true Father will. Mary squeezes his hand, her eyes shining with tears and faith. Look at us, Joseph. A young woman from Nazareth and a carpenter from the house of David, chosen to raise the Son of the Most High. If God can use us for something this impossible, this glorious, he can use anyone, Joseph finishes. He can do anything. Nothing is impossible with God. Mary looks down at Jesus once more, her voice growing soft with maternal love and prophetic understanding. Sometimes I wonder what he dreams about. Does he dream of angels, of heaven, of the work he will do when he is grown? Or does he dream simple childhood dreams, Joseph adds gently, of playing with other children, of learning to use my carpenter's tools, of running through fields of wheat? Both, perhaps, Mary whispers. He is fully God and fully man. Maybe his dreams hold both the eternal and the everyday, just like his life will. Joseph's voice grows thoughtful. Mary, do you ever wonder, when he's older, when he begins his ministry, will he remember these quiet nights? Will he remember us sitting here, watching over him, talking about his future? Mary's eyes fill with fresh tears. I hope so. I hope he remembers that he was loved, that he was wanted, that even though we didn't understand everything, we said yes to God's plan. We chose to trust, to obey, to love him with all our hearts. He will remember, Joseph says with quiet certainty. How could he forget? Love like this, it leaves marks on the soul. They sit in the deepening silence, the weight of their calling settling around them like a mantle. The oil lamps burn lower, casting longer shadows on the walls. The treasures from the Three Magi gleam softly in the diminishing light. Gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, myrrh for a savior. Joseph, Mary whispers finally, whatever tomorrow brings, I am grateful for tonight, for this moment, for the privilege of being his mother, of watching him sleep, of knowing that the Word made flesh calls me Mama. And I'm grateful to be his earthly father, Joseph replies, his voice thick with emotion, to be trusted with his protection, his provision, his care, to teach him to work with his hands, to show him what it means to be a man of integrity, to love him as my own son. Jesus sighs contentedly in his sleep, one small hand reaching out as if grasping for something in his dreams. Without thinking, Mary extends her finger, and his tiny hand closes around it with the instinctive trust of childhood. He's holding on to us, she whispers in wonder. The way we're holding on to him, Joseph adds. The way we are all holding on to God's promises, even when we don't understand them fully. And so, dear listener, as the night deepens and the oil lamps burn lower, Mary and Joseph continue their quiet vigil beside their sleeping son. They speak in whispers of dreams and prophecies, of angels and stars, of the mystery of the Word made flesh dwelling around them. They remember his birth in the cave stable, his circumcision on the 8th day, his presentation in the temple when Mary's purification was complete. Outside, Bethlehem sleeps on, unaware that within one humble limestone house, the parents of the Messiah are learning what it means to hold eternity in their arms, to raise the one who will raise the dead, to love the love that will redeem the world. The treasures from the Three Magi gleam softly in the lamplight. Gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, myrrh for a savior. But the greatest treasure of all sleeps peacefully on a simple mat, watched over by two hearts that have said yes to the impossible and found that with God, all things are indeed possible. As the lamps flicker and fade, as Mary and Joseph finally settle into their own rest, the child who holds the universe in his hands sleep on, dreaming perhaps of both heaven and earth, of glory and humility, of the great work that awaits him and the simple love that surrounds him now. For in this quiet house in Bethlehem, love itself rests in human form, cradled by faith, protected by obedience, and cherished by hearts that have learned that the greatest miracles often come wrapped in the most ordinary moments. And so, dear listener, as the wooden door closes with a soft thud behind the Three Magi, the sound of camel bells and shuffling hooves begin to fade into the cool Bethlehem night. You walk alongside them as they make their way through the narrow, winding streets, their hearts still thundering from the sacred encounter they have just experienced. The star above continues to shine with that supernatural brilliance, but now its work is complete. No longer do they need its guidance. They have found the one it proclaimed. They have knelt before the King of Kings, presented their treasures, and received a blessing that will echo through eternity. Melchior walks slightly ahead, his ornate robes rustling against the limestone walls of the narrow alleyways. His weathered hands still tremble from touching the Christ child, and every few steps, he pauses to look back toward the humble house where they left the Holy Family, as if trying to memorize the exact location where heaven touched earth. "My brothers," he says softly, his voice thick with emotion, "how do we return to our old lives after this? How do we go back to reading stars and interpreting omens for earthly kings when we have gazed into the eyes of the eternal King?" Caspar, walking beside their lead camel, nods slowly. "Everything has changed," he whispers. "Every prophecy we have studied, every ancient text we have pondered, it all makes sense now. The child, did you see how he looked at us? As if he knew exactly who we were, why we had come." Balthazar, bringing up the rear with their treasure-laden pack animals, speaks in hushed, reverent tones. "When I held him, I felt as though I was holding the weight of eternity itself. Yet he was so light, so trusting, so perfectly human. God with us, indeed." The narrow streets of Bethlehem are quiet now. Most families have retired for the night. Oil lamps flicker in scattered windows, casting dancing shadows on the ancient stone walls. The air carries the scent of dying cooking fires, the earthy smell of animals settling for the night, and that distinctive fragrance of olive wood smoke that seems to permeate every Middle Eastern town. Their destination is the Khan of the Good Samaritan, a modest caravanserai near Bethlehem's eastern gate, where traveling merchants traditionally lodge. It is a simple establishment, a rectangular courtyard surrounded by small rooms and covered alcoves, with a central area where camels and donkeys can be tethered for the night. As they approach the khan, you hear the gentle sounds of other travelers settling in, the soft murmur of conversations in various languages, the occasional snort of a camel, the clink of cooking pots being cleaned after the evening meal. A few oil lamps burn in the courtyard, their flames protected by clay shields from the night breeze. The khan keeper, a stout man named Yoram with kind eyes and work-worn hands, greets them at the gate. He has been expecting them. Word travels quickly in small towns, and the arrival of such obviously wealthy foreigners had been noted throughout Bethlehem. "Peace be upon you, honored guest," Yoram says with a respectful bow. "Your servants arrived earlier and have prepared your quarters. Your camels are fed and watered, your belongings secured." The three Magi's servants, 12 faithful men who have traveled with them across desert and mountain, have indeed been busy. 3 adjoining rooms along the eastern wall of the courtyard have been prepared with the finest accommodations the humble khan can offer: clean sleeping mats, fresh water for washing, and small oil lamps to provide light through the night. Watch now, dear listener, as the 3 Magi prepare for what they believe will be their final night in the Holy Land. Tomorrow, they plan to rise early, break their fast, and begin the journey back to Jerusalem to report to King Herod before starting their long trek home to the east. Melchior enters his small chamber, perhaps 8 feet by 10 feet, with limestone walls and a single window opening that looks out toward the star-filled sky. His servant, a young man named Cyrus, has laid out his sleeping robes and placed a clay pitcher of water beside a bronze washing basin. The room is simple, but clean, with a woven mat on the floor and a small wooden chest with his personal belongings. As Melchior removes his travel-stained outer robes, his fingers linger on the golden threads that the Christ child had touched just hours before. He folds the garment carefully, reverently, as if it has become a sacred relic. The memory of those tiny hands exploring the fabric, those deep, knowing eyes looking up at him with such trust and love, it overwhelms him anew. He kneels at his sleeping mat and lifts his hands toward heaven. "Blessed are you, Lord God of Israel," he prays. He prays in Hebrew, in the same Hebrew he learned during his years of studying Jewish prophecies. "You have allowed this unworthy servant to see your salvation. You have shown your light to the Gentiles, just as your prophets foretold." In the adjacent room, Caspar performs his own evening cleansing. His chamber is nearly identical, simple, clean, peaceful. As he washes the dust of Bethlehem's streets from his hands and face, he finds himself thinking about the frankincense they presented to the child. The sweet aroma still clings to his robes, mingling with the scent of the olive oil lamp that burns beside his sleeping mat. "The priest," he murmurs to himself, remembering how naturally the word had come to his lips when he presented the sacred resin. "He will be our great high priest, interceding between God and man." The weight of that revelation settles over him like a mantle as he prepares for sleep. Balthazar, in the third room, sits cross-legged on his mat, staring at his hands. The same hands that held the Christ child, that presented the myrrh, that trembled as they touched the face of God incarnate. The bitter fragrance of the burial spice still lingers on his fingers, a sobering reminder of the child's ultimate destiny. He knows. Balthazar whispers into the quiet night. Even at not quite 2 years old, he knows what lies ahead. I saw it in his eyes. Acceptance, purpose, love beyond measure. Balthazar shakes his head in wonder. How can such a small child carry the weight of the world's redemption? One by one, the three magi settle onto their sleeping mats. The oil lamps burn low, casting gentle, flickering light on the limestone walls. Outside in the courtyard, the last conversations of fellow travelers fade into silence. The camels shift and settle with soft grunts and sighs. Night watchmen begin their quiet rounds through Bethlehem's streets. The star, their faithful guide for nearly 2 years, continues to shine overhead, visible through their small window openings. But now it seems different somehow, less urgent, more peaceful. Its work is done. The king has been found, worshipped, honored. The prophecies have been fulfilled. Sleep comes slowly to each of them. Their minds are too full of wonder, their hearts too overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they have experienced. They drift in and out of wakefulness, replaying every moment of their encounter with the Holy Family. Every word spoken, every gesture of the precious child who held their hearts in his tiny hands. But as the night reaches its deepest hour, that sacred time when heaven seems closest to earth, something extraordinary begins to happen. Melchior is the first to slip into deep sleep. In his dreams, he finds himself standing once again in that humble limestone house, but now the room is filled with brilliant light. An angel of the Lord appears before him, not the Christ child this time, but a mighty messenger with wings like burnished bronze and eyes like flames of fire. Melchior, the angel speaks, and his voice carries the authority of the throne room of heaven. You have done well. You have followed the star. You have worshipped the King. You have presented your gifts with pure hearts. But hear now the word of the Lord. Do not return to Herod. The king's heart is filled with murderous intent. He seeks not to worship the child, but to destroy him. The angel continues, and Melchior feels the weight of divine urgency. Rise and depart immediately for your own country by another way. Take the eastern road through Jericho, cross the Jordan, and return through the wilderness route you know well. Tell no one in Jerusalem of what you have seen. The child's life depends on your obedience. In his dream, Melchior falls to his knees before the angel. We will obey, Lord. But what of the child? What of the Holy Family? The Lord will protect his own, the angel replies. Your part is complete. You have proclaimed to the world that the King of the Jews has been born. Now you must preserve that proclamation by keeping silent until the appointed time. At the exact same moment, in the room next door, Caspar experiences an identical vision. The same angel, the same urgent message, the same divine command, and in the third chamber, Balthazar receives the same heavenly warning. Each man awakens with a start, his heart pounding, the angel's words echoing in his mind with crystal clarity. For a moment, they lie still on their mats, wondering if what they experienced was merely a dream born of their overwhelming day. But the urgency, the clarity, the divine authority of the message, it was too real, too powerful to dismiss. Melchior is the first to rise. Moving quietly in the darkness, he lights his oil lamp and steps out into the courtyard. To his amazement, he sees light flickering in the other two chambers as well. Caspar emerges from his room at almost the same instant, followed immediately by Balthazar. They meet in the center of the courtyard, their faces pale in the lamplight, their eyes wide with the knowledge of divine encounter. "The angel," Melchior whispers urgently. "Did you?" "Yes," Caspar breathes. "The same vision, the same warning. We must not return to Herod." Balthazar adds, his voice trembling with the weight of revelation. "The child is in danger. We have been warned to depart immediately by another route." Without another word, they spring into action. Years of traveling together have taught them to work as one unit when urgency demands it. They wake their servants with quiet efficiency, explaining only that they have received divine guidance to change their travel plans. "Pack everything," Melchior instructs Cyrus in hushed tones. "We leave within the hour. Load the camels for the eastern route. We are going home through Jericho and the Jordan Valley." The servants, accustomed to their master's sudden changes of direction based on dreams and visions, asked no questions. They moved with practiced efficiency through the pre-dawn darkness, rolling sleeping mats, packing provisions, loading the precious gifts they still carry, gold, frankincense, and myrrh from distant lands, along with the remaining treasures they had brought for trade. Watch them work, dear listener. In the flickering light of oil lamps and torches, the courtyard becomes a hive of quiet, purposeful activity. The camels, sensing the urgency, rise to their feet with soft grunts and begin their rhythmic chewing as packed saddles are secured and water skins are filled. Caspar oversees the loading of their astronomical instruments, the astrolabe, the star charts, the careful records they have kept of their journey. These precious tools that help them follow the star must be protected for their return journey. Balthazar ensures the remaining trade goods are properly secured. Bolts of silk, precious stones, rare spices that will help fund their long journey home. But now, these earthly treasures seem almost insignificant compared to the spiritual riches they carry in their hearts. As they work, each man finds himself glancing frequently toward the western part of town, toward the humble house where they left the Holy Family. The urgency of the angel's warning weighs heavily on their hearts. If Herod truly intends to harm the child, how long before he acts? How long before his soldiers come searching? "Should we warn them?" Caspar asks quietly as he checks the ropes securing his camel's load. Melchior shakes his head, though his face shows the same concern. The angel said the Lord will protect his own. If he sent messengers to warn us, surely he will warn them as well. The child is in God's hands, Balthazar adds, though his voice carries the weight of a man leaving something behind, something infinitely precious. We must trust that the same divine providence that guided us to him will shield him from harm. Within an hour, their small caravan is ready. 12 camels loaded with supplies and treasures, 15 men prepared for the long journey ahead. But this departure feels different from their arrival. Then, they had come with anticipation and hope, following a star toward an unknown destination. Now they leave with fulfilled hearts, but heavy spirits, carrying the weight of divine warning and the knowledge that the child they worshipped may soon face mortal danger. The Khan keeper, Yoram, emerges from his quarters as they prepare to depart. He is puzzled by their sudden change of plans. Most travelers rest at least a full day before beginning such a long journey. But the gold they press into his hand for his hospitality silences any questions he might have had. "May the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob go with you," he says simply, recognizing something sacred in their urgency. As the eastern gate of Bethlehem creaks open in the pre-dawn darkness, the three Magi take one final look back toward the town where their lives were changed forever. The star still shines overhead, but now it seems to be blessing their departure rather than guiding their arrival. "We came as seekers," Melchior says softly as they pass through the gate. "We leave as witnesses." "We came following a star," Caspar adds, his voice filled with wonder. "We leave carrying the light of the world in our hearts." "We came bearing gifts for a king," Balthazar concludes. "We leave having received the greatest gift of all. We have seen our Savior." And so, dear listener, as the first pale light of dawn begins to touch the eastern horizon, the caravan of the three Magi disappears into the wilderness, taking the long route home through Jericho and the Jordan Valley. They will travel for months through desert and mountain, carrying with them the most precious cargo of all, the testimony that the King of Kings has been born, that the light of the world has come to dwell among us. Behind them, Bethlehem sleeps on, unaware that history has just been made within its walls. The humble house where Mary, Joseph, and Jesus rest still glows with the lingering presence of divine encounter. And high above, the star that guided the three Magi begins to fade as the sun rises. Its mission complete, its promise fulfilled. But this is not the end of our story, dear listener. For even as the three Magi disappear into the eastern wilderness, other dreams are stirring, other warnings are being given, other journeys are about to begin. The child they worshipped will soon face his first great trial, and the Holy Family will discover that following God's call sometimes means fleeing into the night, trusting His protection, even when the path ahead is uncertain. Thank you for joining me tonight as we witnessed one of the most sacred encounters in human history, when heaven's royal embassy knelt before the child Christ in a humble Bethlehem home. I pray that you carry with you the three Magi's example of sacrificial worship, their recognition of true kingship in the most unexpected places, and their obedience to divine warning, even when it meant abandoning their original plans. If these three Magi presenting gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the toddler Jesus has reminded you that God often reveals His greatest treasures through the simplest moments, take time to worship Him in the ordinary places of your own life. Until next time, may you recognize the King of Kings in unexpected places. May you offer Him the treasures of your heart, and may you trust His guidance even when it leads you down unfamiliar paths. This is In the Field Audio Bible, where we listen to the Bible one chapter at a time.